On today's episode of To The Point, we have one of the secrets to the lab's success.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movie.
Welcome on in To The Point with Kristian. We are so excited you are here today because I'm very excited. I feel like I have talked about this guest with everybody, but we haven't had her here in studio. And we also have another record-setting show. So, to my left, I'm going to introduce Sienna Lalau. And I have to say, you are kind of one of the keys to the success for the lab. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us today.
All right. Super excited. And of course, third-time guest, which is setting a record here on To The Point. Welcome back, Valerie Ramirez.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy you're here, and I love that you're holding the record. You're keeping it up.
I know.
Because the lab was actually the first time I had a repeat guest, too, when I had you guys on after the finale for Wilder Dance.
Sure.
So
No, it's exciting. Thank you for having us.
All right, of course. Now, I feel like I've talked about you so much on this show. We had Trey DeRego, of course, and he was talking about your process and everything else and how you are part of the puzzle for the lab. But I want to kind of start out, how did the two of you come together?
Well, actually, I didn't join the lab until 2016, back in November 2016. And Kea, our youngest on the JV team, for the TV show, I actually grew up with her in Hawaii. So we both lived together, not together in Hawaii, but she was one of my students back at home. So I taught her. And then when she moved out to LA, I would visit her a lot of the time. And one day, her mom just brought up to me, oh my gosh, you have to see this team that we've been training with. They're called The Lab. They're so amazing. We love training with them. They're so hardworking. I was like, okay, I want to see what The Lab is all about. And so everybody showed me videos, and I was like, oh my goodness, this team is amazing. I was like, I would absolutely love to dance with them one day. And so Kea's mom, because we been together for a long time, so she brought it up to Val saying, there's this girl from Hawaii, her name is Sienna, and she I showed her who Kea's been dancing with and everything. And so Val actually had the lab was competing at a competition called Vibe Juniors back in that year, and she was like, well, I think I would be down to bring Sienna out, to come compete with us. So I was low-key kind of freaking out because I was like, oh my gosh, the lab wants me to come dance with them. I was like, oh, that's so crazy. So I came out back in 2016, and ever since then, I've absolutely loved the lab and just always trained with them. And then it wasn't until the past couple of months, or actually this past year, where I've been a main choreographer for the studio. So yeah.
What did you see in her?
I mean, what's not to see, first of all? No. She's crazy.
Let's bring it on. No, this is good. You need to hear it.
It was kind of crazy. They were talking about her one day. Someone had said something about Sienna, and I was like, who is that? And they showed me a video, and I was like, oh, they're like, she's really good. You got to see her. I was like, oh, she's really good. My gosh, she's really, really good. And then we were constructing our set, like she had said, and then I was telling Carrie, I was just like, there's just something missing, and there was some sort of dynamic missing, and I was like, I wonder if that girl Sienna would come out and dance with us. And I felt like her strength and just her approach to the way she performs and her choreography and stuff. And it wasn't even so much that it was choreography based; it was more just about her as a dancer. So when I called and asked her if she'd be down to come out, it was I think the week of or 2 weeks before. It was something really, really last minute. And when she came down, there was this little section that was open that we didn't have choreography for yet. And it was the section she was in. And I was just like, hey, do you choreograph too? And she's just like, yeah. And I was just like, do you want to try patching this in and seeing what you can do? She's like, sure. She goes into our little small room, and she comes and gets me in 10 minutes, and she's like, do you want to see what I did? And I was like, okay. I didn't know much about her other than she was just a really, really good dancer. And so I remember her ringing me, and she did, and I was just like, oh, okay, this is going to be something. She's really, really, really good. And it was just she was 16, and she was just you can just tell she just had it, and she was as good with choreography as she was with performing and just being a dancer and stuff. So it was kind of one of those things where I was just like, okay, this has to be something. She's a star for sure. So we just from that point on, I just kept telling her, you got to choreograph, you got to choreograph, got to put your work out, you know. And so
Keep exercising that muscle.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think she had a lot of training in terms of like her home studio and everything back in Hawaii and creating content and performing and all that. But I think the level that we were trying to push out with the lab and do like more like TV show stuff and like, you know, we're trying to like expand it to more like production level. Like it's a different type of muscle, like you said, and it's a different type of stage dynamic that you have to create for. And she was so used to classroom content, you know, and just like general competition content that we were just saying like, hey, let's put it out there. Let's like get you established. And then at the same time, like, let's all kind of exercise like this next level that we're trying to reach and creating all together. So she's an essential part of everything we've done over the last year.
This has all happened really fast because you just turned 18 at the end of last year, right?
I did, yes.
Which still blows my mind that at 17 you were helping choreograph $1 million routines with the rest of the team to help win season 2 of World of Dance.
She was a huge factor, and it's kind of like right when she started blowing up where a lot of the international teams really wanted to bring her out for their camps. So it was kind of hard because we were trying to, and she was still in high school. So she was in high school competing with her high school team, but also creating for that circuit as well. And then she was working with our TV kids, and then she was also traveling and doing camps and stuff. So she was incredibly packed and busy, but she would always make time to make sure she came back and helped fill in some content. And that was really kind of her and this other boy, Andrew, that does our choreography. That was their strength, you know, is that creating really great content. And you know, then we'd all kind of put it together as a creative team and figure out what works and stuff. And it was definitely different creating for that type of a stage than it was just for like a Vibe Junior stage. It's definitely a different type of approach that you have to be ready for.
Definitely.
And so you were going to public school while all this was happening?
I was an independent study.
Okay, because I was like, I'm not sure where you're finding like
She started in public school, but then when it got like where she had to be gone for like 3 weeks, they're like, okay, so she went to the independent study.
Yeah, this school oftentimes, I wound up switching schools because of that reason. They don't like
crazy,
you. They want you in a seat
Yeah.
in their classroom.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't work when other things are happening.
Definitely.
Because I was going to say you can't be in China and then
I know, yeah.
coming back to
Right.
history like 2 days later. So this is what I'm interested in because you were living in Hawaii. So the logistics of like kind of getting her here, getting your roots, or did your mom come with you? How did this all work out?
Yes, so I live with just my mom right now. I have actually 3 other siblings and my dad that still live in Hawaii.
Oh my goodness.
So we're not obviously not separated like by like choice or anything, but you know, I'm just so thankful for them because they really sacrificed a lot for me to be here. But yeah, I moved back in September 2017. I've been living here for over a year now. But I've always I've loved coming to LA. I love being here. I love the energy and just love kind of like the environment because it makes me feel like I want to always keep growing because everything is so fast paced here. You know, Hawaii's a little bit more on the chill side, you know,
Right.
so especially like I think for the dance scene, it's a little bit hard for me to want to grow and keep getting better because of the culture back in Hawaii. So I feel like LA was definitely the place for me to be if I wanted to grow, you know, as a dancer and also as a choreographer. So I live with my mom now. It's just us two for now, but hopefully in I think the next year or so, the rest of my family will get to move up after my sister graduates from high school.
Oh, good. It's hard to be separated.
It is. I miss them all the time.
It's just still a 5-6 hour flight from California. It's not.
It is, yeah.
It's not like an hour going to Nevada or something like
I
that.
know.
It is a big sacrifice for your family. I want to talk a lot about sort of the preparation that you guys did in season 2. We had talked a lot about it when we had you guys on after the season ended, and but. Did you play a factor into season 1 at all for them, or it just came in for season 2 essentially?
No, actually, I was like dancing at the lab, but I did not play any part in season 1. I was actually doing season 1 with I'm a Beast. So I competed against the lab, which was so crazy. But you know, they were still obviously we were still family. It was really cool to like see them from a different perspective, and like it was a little weird for me too because like I said they're family, so it was like competing against them was really weird. But yeah, I didn't have any part in season 1, but when I did season 2 it was just more of like being a choreographer, and it was like really cool because I think coming off of season 1 as a dancer and then doing season 2 as a choreographer, it was just so different, but I feel like I learned so much from both seasons as well. So
I think everyone did. I mean, I've got to imagine, because you guys came in with a strategy for season 2, saying,
For
okay,
sure.
we've got an idea of the lay of the land.
Yeah.
Now let's really attack this.
Right. And she was, I think for season 1 too, she had just kind of been introduced to the lab. It was like kind of around the time where she had done one competition with us, but she'd also had her other studio or group that she was dancing with, which was I'm a Beast. So it was kind of like she was already committed to, a different team. So it was an interesting thing because it was like she was family to us, but then she was already on another team, and so we were competing against each other essentially, which was kind of funny. But I think like soon after season 1, it was just everything just started falling into place where she then started doing more content and choreographing with us and stuff, and even dancing and competing and stuff. So it kind of just merged into something really naturally. And I feel like for season 2, we had actually even considered her dancing in season 2 because she was of the age that was like a strong like discussion that we had, and we weren't really sure. And it's so hard because she is of the same age as one of the girls that's actually Sweets.
She just turned 18, right? Yeah.
But there was just there was an approach that we were trying to stay with of keeping the kids really, really young looking, and then it was also that she was already establishing herself and traveling, and it was kind of like the decision was, do you want to be, in front of the camera or behind it? And it was kind of like, I think essentially she really, really wants to be able to create and work on that side of things. So I think she had to just make because she's such a good performer that I think it's probably a little bit torn where you're like, dang, you want to be on stage and get that, but you also know that essentially this is the way you want to create and stuff. So she kind of was forced into making a decision, like which one do I want to prioritize? And then it kind of came down to, because of her schedule was so crazy, that it made sense for her to just be, on the the creative team and choreographing for the group and everything. And I think it was a really smart choice because I think the opportunity she was able to have alongside of also creating, it was almost like she was able to be a part of multiple things versus just one thing. Her dancing on stage would have taken her out of so many other things that I think were essential for even her ability to create at that level. I think when you travel and you're seeing things from a different perspective, I think all of that adds to your creativity and what you're able to produce.
Yeah, it makes your movement more mature, I think, when you've been influenced other cultures, just traveling, the experience of all of that. So how did this all work? Because I know we have Dietrich's in the mix too. So I felt like Trey said a lot of he's like the foundation of what you and Andrew oftentimes would create was the base. Like without you guys, there was nothing.
Right. No, absolutely. And that's pretty much what the formula is with the lab, is that they are the main, content creators where they come up with all the choreography and all the actual dancing. But I think for a show like World of Dance, we couldn't settle with just being really great dancers. It was something that visually you needed some sort of architect that could come in and help you frame some really great blow-ups and stunts. And it's no surprise that Quest Crew is just, the masters of that style.
Award-winning.
Exactly. And they've been friends of ours for so long that it was just really, really great to be able to utilize something that they were so good at and complement the things that they were also really good at. So it was definitely a village of people that was, in the room to be able to pull off the kids, because as much as everything comes down to how creative we can build a set and make that process special, it really does take the help of every single person, making sure that that's even a possibility. Like there was a ton of props and a ton of stunts and things that we wanted to do, and a lot of that fell on the shoulders of like Carrie or some of the parents to make sure that the creatives had the best of what they needed so the kids could have everything that they deserved. So it was like this big train of like people to really make that all possible. But her and Andrew were like such an essential part, I think, to establish our style. And I think that's really, really important because you see the blow-ups and you see the tricks, and those are the moments that, are standout and we remember. But I think there's a style attached to the lab, and that 1,000% comes from the way they create and the way they dance and their vision for their movement.
How do you and Andrew work together? Because it can be hard working in a team. You have days where it's like, this is super easy, and days you're like, oh, it's a little frustrating.
Awesome. No one ever fights. Like
that's good.
No, yeah, I know, yeah.
Between like me, her, and Andrew, we're like, literally, we never have bad energy. There might be stressful energy, but there is never bad energy. It's weird. Like we just like, if it gets like at a peak stress, we all just know that it's for the better of like the team to like, we just got to like push through it. But like, we just never ever fight.
That's rare, honestly. Because when you have a lot of teamwork, there are just days when you're like, this is hard. part. And we're stressed out.
Yeah.
How, are you guys mapping it out? Like, what is your process for choreographing? Because everyone kind of has a different approach to it. Some people are using like pen and paper.
Right.
Some people are using software. Other people are just very visual to it.
I think right now the process has kind of like actually really established itself. I think doing the show really helped us understand how to like create the most like efficient way. And it was really to have departments of specialists, people that are really good at all the ingredients that you need to be able to come up with a winning routine. And so, you know, on the show we were able to utilize Dietrich's, but now we're actually working closely with Hawk as well. And Hawk has been someone that we've worked with for, and I've known him for probably like 10 years, I think. And he's also like this artistic genius, you know, where he's just, everything is so visual, and like it's great because it's so different than the way they see their movement. And so it's like this like really nice complementing layers of everything. But typically what it'll be is I'll kind of come up with the concept or the direction, or like I just think the whole energy to what we want to present. Then we get on board, we have a meeting, and we kind of announce that that's the way we want to go. Then we all brainstorm on music. And I think that because I could come up with all those things, but I feel like that would hinder their creativity if they always just had to create to what was asked of them. So they're really involved in the creative process and picking out music and having an opinion of how do we think that's going to complement what the kids do, or is it not even about that at this point? Is it about pushing past our comfort zone and us all picking something that we're not super used to or super comfortable with? So for us, it's this big process of coming up with the, you know, I'll come up with the core of what we want to do, and then all the creatives kind of around in their special departments will come in and have input and suggestion on how we can elevate it to be something that we haven't done in the past.
Yeah.
And for you, how has this been? Like, what have you learned going through this kind of like team process? Because I think it's very different than choreographing individually.
Oh, definitely. I think with just being one of like the main people to do all of like a lot of the content, it definitely, I've been really stressed at times. There's been moments where I've been really stuck as well. I feel like sometimes like she said, like we want to keep like pushing our boundaries and everything. So, you know, I've always been like thinking of ways to elevate our team and things that we haven't even done yet. So it's a little stressful at times, but I think one thing that I've always learned is that like no matter like how stressed or like how hard it's gonna be, like if you keep pushing yourself and like keep thinking of ways that you can always elevate yourself, then you know it'll all like work out in the end, and it'll all like just be super worth it as well. So yeah, like I said, it's been very stressful, but like I think I've been getting used to it to a point where like if I do feel stressed or feel really stuck, then I'll look for other ways to pull some like creativeness from like whether it be other performances like that I've been inspired by, or other like cultures that I've like like the places that I visited. Like if I've been there, like I'll take some inspiration from that as well. So I think for me, like I'm kind of like a sponge. I like to absorb everything that I've seen or something that I've heard or just things that I've learned over like my entire like dance journey. So I think I like to pull a lot of like of my ideas from finding inspiration from other things.
Where does your maturity in movement come from? Because you're 18. A lot of people are 25 and still even just trying to figure out choreography. Do you know
that's just in our DNA?
Yeah, it is.
I've come up, but I've tried to like understand it myself. Like,
oh my gosh,
you don't have it. Yeah, it's like
it's just she's like one of one when it comes to that. Like she's just pretty crazy and good. But I think one of the things she might not even realize that she does is she really absorbs and just like fully puts herself in the music. Like she is nonstop listening to the mix. It's something that's like on repeat. If she's in the shower, if she's eating, whatever it is, she's completely just absorbed in everything that it's supposed to be. So she gets herself really like, she'll read the lyrics over and over. Like she's very, very, very in depth with what the song is. So I think that she has these little details that maybe you wouldn't know if you're just listening to the song, but she really like just figures out every layer to what it is. And I think she creates to all of those things. And I feel like that's why like when you watch it, it's just like pretty incredible, because she's just like, she's got like so much depth to like the way she presents her movement and stuff. And I mean, beyond how smart and intelligent it is, her execution is like out of this world, you know, like she's just crazy that way.
Any of your family members in dance or in music?
Actually, my dad used to be a DJ before I
go.
was born. Yeah, so
They're just musically inclined.
Yeah, they were always somewhere in there. I always am like a grandparent, a parent, an aunt, and uncles because you were around it. Probably even when your mom was pregnant.
No, actually,
I
funny
think it's a
story.
Hawaii thing too, though, because
The culture
that
is
way
very-
too.
yeah,
There's
culture
just
is
something
very-
about the music that just connects to them. They understand it. It's like a
sure.
language for them.
I feel that, yeah.
Tell the story.
Well, yeah, so like I said, my dad used to be a DJ growing up. And when my mom was pregnant with me, she would go to all of his events, you know, and the music was so loud that when she was pregnant with me, she could actually feel me kicking to the beat of the song that he was playing or whatever. And like, I remember her saying, like, when she would go to the doctor, she would be like, is it okay for me to like be with my baby out in these like loud events? And the doctor was like, oh my gosh, no, yeah, it's totally fine, you
Music's
know?
great.
Yeah, he was saying like, if anything, it's like really like it's really good for the baby, like. And so when I was born, you know, she said I would run around the house just dancing and singing. So it's been like my family has always been around music ever since. So I think that plays a lot of why I
It's
just
amazing.
enjoyed it so much.
She came out of the womb. Like,
Yeah, because you were having a whole education of music education while you were
Pretty
in the
much,
womb.
yeah.
her sisters though, she has two other sisters, and they're the same way. Like I don't think dance and training is like a regular part of their routine. And her sister actually just competed with us, but she came out. But they're like really good too. Like they have like barely any training, and they get into class and they're just killing it. And you're like, okay, so this is totally like a bloodline
Genetic
thing. It's totally like they're just genetically blessed.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
I'm
thank
very
you.
envious. I have to be honest.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's a gift. What was your favorite routine that you helped create for World of Dance?
Ooh,
We'll pull it up too.
I will
so.
definitely have to say it was our second week performance, the lean back one. I felt like our kids really embodied what the song was like talking about and like everything about it. I feel like honestly for all of us, like we're competitors, like we love competing, so I feel like it was just a really good way for us to.
And this one was crazy
Yeah.
too, because this was before Dietrich's had come in the picture. We were just like really trying to push ourselves to like, because we, you know, none of us trick, so we don't really understand
yeah.
exactly how to direct it. But I think visually we understood what we needed to see, so we were really pushed. I think this really pushed us because we had to do all the construction, just the three of us, and it was a stretch, but I think it turned out to be something we were super proud of.
Yeah.
And then you also have an understanding of what J-Lo and Derek and Neo are looking for.
Sure.
They do want a wow factor on theirs, and they don't want the same thing from the duels to the cut to
Right.
divisional final. They're very specific about that. And
For
I
sure.
always say to people that are like, listen to what the judges are saying, because to me, they have a very clear message
Or
about
what
what
the
they're
round
looking
is
for.
asking for. I
Yes.
mean, this was a battle, so we really tried to go really aggressive with something that made the kids feel like they were fighting for their life, you know?
And they definitely did. Yeah.
And I think also the use of the stage is super important because you're not working with the flat stage, you're working in the round.
Right.
I finally got to see that stage in person this season. I went, and I was really amazed because it's tricky.
Well, and it's interesting because the show, in my opinion, you're creating for like two different approaches. You're creating for what people see at home, and then you're also creating for your judges that are in person, which that has to be priority no matter what. What they're seeing has to take priority. But then we also were finding out that like when we'd watch the playback of stuff, we're like, oh my God, you couldn't see that whole visual because they shot it from up top.
Right.
They shot it from below. So we really felt like challenged to understand how we could create something that was appealing to both audiences, you know, the one in studio and then the ones at home and stuff. So I felt like that was hard with having a circle stage too. It's just like, you know, you really had to figure out angles and approaches that made sense, that didn't lose the power and the quality of what you wanted to push out, but then that also felt visually stimulating, you know, for the camera angles that it was being shot in.
It really, and for people who haven't visited this set, I found it overwhelming, even just as an audience member. And I was in the VIP area, which is behind the set, so I wasn't standing. I didn't know there was a whole viewing room back there, which I thought was really cool. But just being able to see the 360 camera up top, you hear the noise of that. You have, what do they call it, the B stage, which is behind. Yes. Yeah, so behind the circular stage, and then all of the lights, and then the LED floor. That is a lot to take in, especially I think if it's your first experience working on TV and you're 10 years old.
Right.
How are you guys? I mean, they had done it in season 1, but some of the newer members of the team, how are you keeping them all really grounded?
To be able to deliver on that type of
Yeah,
stage.
that's a lot.
I mean, we mapped out the whole stage in our rehearsal space too. So we had it fully taped out, every inch of things that they were supposed to step on stage and see that they saw in rehearsal as well. And we try to replicate that experience as much as possible. But I think it really just came down to them latching on to the ones that had done season one's energy. And those kids really had to become leaders and let them know and kind of help them feel secure. And like, because when you get that tech, you're on there and it's really quick. It's like 15 minutes. And for us, when you have like to map out spacing for tricks and stuff so it's also safe, it was stressful because you weren't just getting up and like making sure your formations were on point. You were making sure that you weren't standing in the wrong spot so you get landed on by Trey flying through the air, you know. So I feel like that was probably the most stressful thing, is just making sure, especially in our week 4, the one with the desks, that was so stressful because we didn't get the props until like the night before from the show. So what we did was we have a really great relationship with West Covina High School, and they were letting us borrow their desks every day, but we had to, because kids were still in school, we had to pick them up at 3 o'clock when school got out and have them back to the school by 6 in the morning. So every day we're renting a U-Haul to get them there and back. But we knew how important it was for the kids to be able to have the actual equipment that they needed to feel secure with and stuff. But there was a lot of prep. I don't think people recognize how many links we went to, because you only see the result on stage, you know, but like the behind the scenes for these kids to be able to be prepared. I mean, like I said, it was a village of people making sure that they had everything they needed so they could like really pull up in the way they did.
That's unbelievable. It really is, and that, you know, we've talked about that lemon routine 1,000 times, and it's amazing. But the rehearsals must have been grueling.
They were crazy.
Yeah, they really must have been for that, because there were so many props, and it was timing. You miss one thing, everything's out of line.
Right.
True.
No, for sure. I mean, and they were getting hurt at that point because their bodies were all beat up and they were so tired and they were exhausted and they were sick. And it was kind of one of those things where it's like nothing mattered. They had really no excuse. They just had to do it if that's what they wanted. And they just became these little warriors at that point, you know, pulling through some pretty big setbacks. But they had a lot of support too. I think that they had a lot of encouragement. The parents were really, really, really great, and they kept them on this really great schedule of making sure that they were pampered and taken care of. You know, eating on a certain schedule and getting their meals and
The
getting
little
rest
Olympians
and stuff.
that they were.
It's pretty much what it was. They just had this Olympic-style training schedule. So, but
I want to know, because obviously you and Sweets are in the same age range. Is it weird sometimes where you're kind of in a position of leadership and you're asking give and take, and we need to correct this, you need to do this?
I do feel a little weird being so close to actually a lot of them in their age. I actually feel like a little insecure about myself a little bit sometimes, because I do like understand that age is like a really big important like factor on like why people like respect you sometimes. But I feel like those kids, like, they always showed me nothing but love and like just so much positive energy. And I think like even if I had to like be the bad guy and like not be mean, but like give them corrections. Yes.
Yeah.
They always took it with a good heart, and they never like, gave me like any attitude or anything. So I was just super thankful for that. But it is a little awkward and a little weird because I am so close to them in their age.
How do you work through those moments of insecurity? Because we all have it. I mean, I even have it.
Yes.
Like, I'm way over 18, and there are days that I'm like, why am I doing this? But it's amazing to me that at 17, you're like, here I am in an adult situation, asking my peers.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah, you are. And as a teen too, that can be just a hard thing, just because you're growing up at that time and figuring things out.
I think for me, it's just realizing that, it's all about like what I have to offer to everybody. Mm-hmm. I think just finding confidence in that, and I think when I do that, it like just reassures me that I'm on the right path, and that everything that I do give to the kids and everything that I say to the kids is all out of like good intentions and all out of love. So I hope they know that as well sometimes. But there will be moments where I'm like, of course, over it or like exhausted or tired, but like I just have to remind myself like the reason on why I do what I do and what the bigger purpose is behind it. And I think once I realize that, like, it just, like I said, it reassures me that everything is okay.
She's really good with them though. Like, everything is by example for her. Like, she doesn't ask them to do anything that she doesn't demand of herself. And I think that's a big part of it, is that they not only is she a shining example by what she can create and produce, but then when it comes down to like the way she treats people and the way she speaks to them, like, there's no ego, there's no I'm better than you, there's no you have to listen to me. She doesn't abuse the power,
right?
And she's just very, relatable with them, and I think that makes it to where it's like they respect her so much because they can obviously all see how good she is, but she makes them feel comfortable, like we're all fighting for this together, you know. And I think that for kids, when you can relate to them and they feel like they also feel connected to you in that sense, I think that they grew into her being this, because at first it was kind of like she was this captain, and now now she's like kind of a coach and a creator, and it kind of started just forming into something different each time.
Organically, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that the line of respect was always intact because of the way she conducts herself to them. I think that she was always just very much like, encouraging of them and making sure like any kind of feedback she had was so they could be better. And I think that she's such an essential part of how much the kids have grown, her and Andrew over the last, couple years. Andrew over the last 5 years, and her, easily over the last 2 years, have been like just like their influence and the way they speak to people and the respect the kids have for them. I mean, it's really a result of how great they've been back to the kids, because you can be really good, but that doesn't mean people are going to like you, And I think that if it's a pretty common thing that they're just really well received from, their peers or the students or even the community, just because they don't come with ego, and they don't come with any kind of arrogance that says like I deserve this, or it's I'm entitled to feel this way or act this way. So it's been something. I mean, that's a pretty high standard we have at the studio, that you treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yes.
And you
Everyone who's come
encourage
through the studio has been amazing from from the
Thank
lab.
you.
So it's been,
you.
I know. And it's funny because of the feedback I get all the time too, which I love. People are, they're such great kids. They're so polite and so smart.
They are.
And so,
They're really good kids.
They're
like,
great.
We're very, very fortunate. Like all of our students just have such a high regard for respect and discipline, and they're kids and they need reminders, but they respond. Yeah. And I think that's the important thing, that, they're never above it. The little remarks and stuff that you would typically get out of teenagers.
The eye rolls.
Yeah, they're just not those kids. And we're just so fortunate because they could, you could run into those situations. But I think they know that the standard's pretty high, and they have to kind of fall in line if they want to move forward. And I think that they respond to it so beautifully that we're really, really fortunate that all of our energies just sync up so naturally.
Well, and I think they're also seeing the results of their hard work as
Sure.
well. It's not just, hey, this is handed to us. Nothing
Sure.
was handed.
Nothing.
I mean,
They work for everything. I think people think that it's just this little team of professionals sometimes, maybe because of the show. But I'm appreciative of that presentation that people might have received from what we do. But man, these kids work. Like, they work. We are in the studio. If we're building a project, the minimum amount of hours we spend a day is 8 hours.
True.
We don't take breaks. They have, a lunch break. They're doing school, and they're grinding the whole time.
Literally in the lab 24/7.
They work. Yeah. So it's kind of like, it's really great that people have such great feedback to it. But there's just it's really a result of what they put in. They just, they really know how to commit to things.
And I think too, when I always look at the itty bitties that you have on the team, I'm like, the same thing is expected of them
sure.
as your
Yeah.
16, 17-year-olds.
1000%. I know we always say that. I'm like, I don't care if you're 8 or 18. Like, if you're going to be at this level, then the standards across the board, and they just fall in line. We've had so many successful little kids come through the studio and just kind of get groomed into this kind of standard of like, man, are you really 8? You're like, what was I doing at 8? Like, they're crazy. They're really, really brilliant. But I think it comes down to the kid. It's like the talent is one thing, but we've really figured out and mastered out a way of how to drill the skill into kids, but it can't be received unless they're that type of student that wants it, and that really is a huge factor at the lab, is like, if you can get your mind right and you can get yourself in a space where like you really, really, really have a strong drive and determination, like we have really skilled, professionals that can help get you there. But it's a combination of the student really, really just responding to every single thing that's thrown at them, and it's a lot. They condition a lot, and she'll get down and do it with them too and stuff, and I think that's also something that they know. It's like, it's not for torture purposes. It's for, it's for discipline, or it's for results, and I think that, it's grueling going through it, but they've been so blessed to be able to have so many great moments and opportunities that they can be proud of, that I think it really has paid off for them in the long run.
Definitely.
What changes have you seen to the studio? Because when you win a show, I'm sure there was an influx of new students or seeking opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the biggest thing that I noticed the change in was probably our Instagram and like just the outreach. That was really, really cool to me, because I just didn't really register that it would make that type of an impact or difference for people, because it's actually a lot of non-dancers that will reach out to, which is really, really sweet. And I think sometimes that's like a little more touching to know that something that doesn't relate to somebody else is still touching them and moving them to like feel a certain thing. So that type of impact was also really motivating. But our Instagram messages and just the people that reach out to us, they just so much love and support. And I'm sure you get your few comments of, bitterness or hate and that, but you know what? Like, we're just so fortunate because there's just not a lot of that energy surrounding what we do. And like, I wake up each day and I think about all the blessings we have and all the people that support us. And I just feel so, so grateful that there's such love and good energy around us that was what I noticed the biggest difference. And sure, there's the kids that come through the door and the parents that are like, oh, we saw you on TV. We want our kids to be that way and everything. But they quickly realize, like, that's a process.
Yep.
That's a big, long
And it's a
process.
commitment.
It's a
Definitely
huge
commitment.
Yeah.
And I think some of them are willing to do it because they've seen the result. But for the most part, I think people see results and then they think, let me sign up for those results. And you got to kind of understand that, like Trey's been at this for 6 years. Like there's kids that, even like Logan, like these kids have been at this for a while and they've kind of just been able to stick with a formula and a system, and it paid off for them. But there was many times that it didn't. And so coming in, signing up off of someone else's journey is not really practical. But the cool thing about what the kids stand for and what we're really big about is that we love the idea of extending opportunity and making sure everybody feels that they can have a place to kind of dream and believe that they're capable of reaching those same results. It's just about the work. Are you willing to put in the work that we put in to get there? And so some say yes and some say yes and then they quit, and then some say no and all that. And either way, I think it really doesn't matter. We're just kind of like, we're really into what we do, and we're really about creating, and we're really about the influence that we want to have and the impact that we want to be able to put out there. So it's kind of like just great when people want to jump in line with it, and if they don't, I think we're just like, we're still very confirmed on the things that we do because we love it,
Right. How about for you in Hawaii? Because I've got to imagine that this is a big deal.
It is,
that you've
definitely.
come to Los Angeles and in 2 short years have had tremendous success. I've got to imagine your home studio. There's a lot of pride there. What has the reaction been like?
Oh man, nothing but endless like love and support. Not even just from my studio or like from my family, but I feel like from just the state of Hawaii in general. Well, I feel like, especially too because I'm Polynesian, so there's not a lot of like Polynesian like hip hop dancers that are out into like the industry or like the dance scene. So I feel like there's been even support from there as well. But like everything that I do, like everybody just shows me so much love, and I'm just so thankful and so grateful for all of it. Like I feel like if I didn't have like all of the love and support that I did, like I definitely wouldn't be where I am today. But the response from everybody has been just so amazing, and like I'm even like shocked at it sometimes too, because like growing up in Hawaii, it's such a small island, you know, and like growing up, like I've always loved dance, but I never really thought about taking dance like to another level for myself. I never really like wanted to pursue it like as like a career or anything. Like all I really like wanted to do was just, stay at home, like be in Hawaii and like just have a good time with my family, my friends, and, just make dance like something on the side. But I think like after I started like coming to LA and like started like seeing like what I could actually do with dance, like changed my whole perspective and obviously like changed my life too. So it's been crazy. It's been a really crazy journey so far, but everybody that I've come into contact with or people that I've like my family, my friends that supported me, like it's just all been so great. And like I said, I really couldn't imagine like my life any other way. Like if I were still at home in Hawaii, like going to school or like doing something, like I don't even know what I would like, what my mentality
life opens a door sometimes.
Definitely. So I feel like I've definitely become a different person from dancing alone. But this is definitely big, like for me. Like I said, Hawaii's a small island, and I never really had big dreams because I never really knew about like the dance scene out here until I moved out and started doing stuff. So everything's been crazy, but I love it. I absolutely love it, and I'm so thankful for all the people that support me and everything.
I've got to imagine too, you're creating big dreams for other young dancers that come from your studio because they see what you've been able to accomplish, giving them ideas.
I like to think of it in that way, and I hope that like I do like inspire like the younger generation as well.
She doesn't know that she's doing it, but you are.
She's just really humble, but she
Oh my gosh.
definitely inspires.
Was Rascals from your studio?
Yes, actually, yeah, I am
season
from
2. Yeah,
yes, season 2 Rascals. Yeah, I am from that studio. It's called Hyper Squad Dance Company, and I've been like that's the only studio that I've danced at actually like growing up my entire life. So I started there when I was like 4 years old, and did so many competitions and performances with them. And then when I came out to LA, that's when I left the studio. But I love all those kids so
Did
much.
you see them on set? Were you able to cross over at all?
I did actually.
Oh.
Because I was traveling a lot of the time, but when I was on set with the lab, like I would see them here and there, and it just felt so good because then you feel like you have another family, you know, there with you. So I was so happy to see them, you know, and I think it's cool too that you have people from your hometown, you know, be there to also share the same experience with you.
Yes,
so.
and I remember too their package. They're all like, "This is such a big deal. We only have like one competition a year."
No, yeah,
And
it's true.
it was a great story. I actually appreciated that they kind of gave them the platform to talk about that.
yeah, same.
Because you know, a lot of us go to Hawaii for vacation, but we
Yes.
don't realize that there are plenty of people that live their lives 365 days a year there. And, you know, what are those opportunities with dance? And they're able to see something bigger.
It's crazy. I think for dance, like as a community in Hawaii, it's not very big. Like you said, like everybody thinks of Hawaii as a vacation spot. So when you go there and you see like there's other stuff going on over there, you're like, what the heck? It's like a whole new world that I've never experienced.
People actually
before.
go to school here. And
Yeah, exactly. And it's crazy. But I think for like opportunities as dancers, there's not really that much. Like we always have to, you know, come and fly out to here, like in California, like to compete. Like they said, once a year. Like it takes so much like effort and energy, and also a lot of money to be able to come out here. So expensive. And you know, I think like growing up, that's one thing that like one reason why I never really thought of dance as such a big thing is because there was not really that many opportunities out in Hawaii to be able to like work up to like those big goals or big dreams. So it was hard. It was definitely hard, but you know, I think it definitely humbled me as well to like just realize that, you know, coming from a small area, like it didn't really matter. Like I could just always be able to pursue whatever I wanted to. So
big opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
When did you realize that you had something really big with Sienna? Because your teaching has taken you all over the globe at this point. It's
crazy.
And again, I mean, I keep harping on your age, but it's, you know, not many people are teaching in China and in other countries until they're in their mid to late 20s, if at all, or maybe even their 30s.
Right. Yeah, probably the first day I saw her dance in person.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty immediate. I just remember coming in, it was like, we were all freaked out. All the kids, we were just like, what? Because she's
Who
like,
are you and where are you from?
She comes in and we're all done, right? We have the set and then we're like, okay, well, she's got to learn her spot. She comes in and she's just learning it as she goes. And it was like, took them like a month to get, you know, and they're like, she's clean. We're like, I know. We're like all genuinely freaked out. Like they're coming in, they're like, she's kind of scaring me. Like, what is this? And I'm like, I don't know. I've never seen anything like it too. And I just remember that first rehearsal being hilarious because they were like, oh, okay, cool, we're gonna win. You know, it's like, you know what? Dang, I think we just found the secret weapon, and it was kind of cool because, you know, we have so many kids at the studio that are really versatile, and they flip or they trick or right, whatever. They have so many of these blow-ups, but I think she kind of came in and inspired a different thing that we hadn't had, you know. And I think her being as young as some of the kids that were competing and having this like really, really, really crazy approach to how hard she hit and her choreography and everything, we're just like, I think it just motivated us to see dance at a different level, you know. And so it was kind of like that day I was like, yeah, no, she's pretty dang special. She's gonna be it. And I remember telling Carrie or Kaya's mom, because that's where she had lived, and Kaya's mom was actually a huge part of the reason why she was able to be out here and do what she did, was that, you know, she opened up her house to her and allowed them to stay there and, you know, just kind of get settled and have the opportunity to be in LA, because it isn't easy. It's expensive, and, you know, it's really demanding and stuff. And so I just remember saying, like, trust me, like, if she can move out here, like, we can build an empire, because she's just that good. There was just something that maybe we'd been good before, but I think as you get better and better, you have to add to the ingredients. You have to be able to add to the layers, and that's what we've been able to do pretty successfully over the years, is always kind of bring in new creatives to keep the flow feeling fresh and new.
right.
And I'm really, really big on that coming from students, because I think there's this idea of staying really current is also by listening to what their interest is, and kind of taking your knowledge and mixing it with their generation, I think
Right.
is one of those things that helps us feel that it stays relevant. You don't just go with these old ways of thinking, we didn't have this then, and no, they
Back in
needed
our
this way.
day.
Exactly.
With our cane in our wheelchair. But that's unusual, though, because, you go into any part of business. It doesn't matter whether it's just entertainment. And oftentimes, your generation isn't being listened to by
Sure.
the older generation. But I think coming together, everyone
that's
can
been
learn.
a huge thing, is that we'll have I feel like I've been doing this a long time, to where like I understand the lows and the highs, but I don't have what they have, and I know that that's kind of something that both are necessary, because they can be really good and you don't know how to use your good, and then it doesn't matter. So it's kind of one of those things we've been able to kind of connect on, where you have these really, really brilliant dancers and choreographers creating really great content, and then we're all kind of discussing the best way to use it and the best way to put it on the students and the best way to get it through to the students, because it also comes down to the students can be really good, but if they're not mentally ready to train at that level, then you still don't get the best of them. So that's kind of where I'll come in and help them understand the training, and these kids come in here and they teach them how to be, these little skilled masters at their age and stuff, and it's really this combination that's been the success. I don't believe that there could be one person responsible for any of it. It's really just been this incredible group effort. And the kids are part of that equation too. They have to be. It's everybody kind of coming together. Absolutely. And they do. They get to say, like, I like this song, I don't like this song, or I like this movement, I don't like this movement. Not to a place where they're, spoiled and they just get to stomp their feet. But I think input is so important. I think voicing things and just feeling like you have that kind of involvement really makes a difference in the pride you take in what you do. And it's like, maybe they're not ready to have a voice yet, but I think the fact that they're allowed to, I think helps them approach their training like it's something special and personal to them.
What about teaching? Because I think that is a muscle that can be developed young, but obviously you've kind of developed it really young, because I think that's one of those things. Oftentimes people are apprentice teachers, that kind of thing, and then they kind of come up through the whole system. But you
were like
obviously,
10.
I know, you're
so young when
if
you
you're
started.
teaching all over the world, and being asked to come and teach at studios, you're obviously delivering something that people are looking for.
Most people don't realize, and I think she's such a great example of it. Most people look at Sienna and they'd be like, she's a master, and that's why she's teaching master classes, and she's young, but she's got a lot of knowledge to still offer, and she's got a movement, right? But what they don't realize is she's young, but then think of how young she actually started in teaching. She wasn't just a really good dancer and choreographer, and then she got, international and started teaching. That doesn't mean you're a good teacher.
Right.
But she started teaching at a really young age, at a very beginning level. And a lot of kids nowadays won't do that. They want to teach master classes because they're advanced. But that doesn't teach you how to be a good dancer, or a good educator or teacher. You really have to understand how to develop the patience for students and communication. And that's easier to do with an advanced level, but it also is less respected if you don't have something to offer beyond your movement,
Right.
And so she started really young, but she started never with a master class, never with an advanced class. She worked into that movement, and she was really good still teaching beginning, intermediate classes. Even when she came out to our studio, she didn't just get a master class when she started, and she was worthy of that. But there were things and tools that she needed to develop, and I think that was a big reason why she did the Westco, hip hop and did that competition circuit, is that, it allowed her to be present in a situation where she hadn't been there before, and she had to work with dancers that maybe weren't at her skill level, but she had to give them the presentation that they were. She had to train them to be at a level where they could do her choreography, or they could come together and look united as a team. And I think that helped her develop skills to know how to take what she is good at and communicate it with, a bunch of students that don't even speak the same language.
Well, how old were you when you taught your very first class?
I was 10.
10. So you were 10.
years
I've
old.
been doing it for a long time.
So how old were the kids that you were teaching?
I was actually teaching high school and college students for my church dance group. Yeah, it was
Okay.
it was crazy.
That is crazy. But obviously, see, this is some of the skills that you learned young too. Is that balance? Sometimes you are teaching people who are older than
Yeah,
you, and
exactly.
and learning to, that they have to respect you and that you have a voice as a teacher. What's your secret weapon as a teacher? Is there one thing that you really?
I don't really think I have a secret weapon.
you
I
do.
I just absolutely love just being surrounded by people, and I just love giving back to others. So, and I think the fact that I love dance as well, I think putting those two together just make me love it even more. So every time I teach a class, like I just love being able to, what is the word? I just love being able to interact with other people, and I love just feeling other people's energy around me. So I don't really think I have a secret weapon. I just love being surrounded by people.
It's
and I
pretty
love
genuine.
educating.
She just genuinely enjoys giving and sharing, and I think that,
Love that.
I think it makes people feel really welcomed in her classes, because I could imagine it'd be intimidating to take a class from Sienna, but then when you get in the class and she's so personable and there's such a connection, like I think there's a nice like energy and spirit. I think that's what has kept her like really being like highly like demanded or requested, is that people feel really good when they leave her classes.
Good.
Even if they can't do it. I've had like 10-year-olds come take her class and I'm like, oh no, like I'm like, oh no, they're
not
gonna be able
ready,
to do
but-
it. And they leave and like, that was so much fun, and it was just cute because like I think she just has a way of making you feel really good and involved and just proud of where you're at for and just the effort and getting out there and trying and stuff. So I think that she just has a really good connection with her students, and I think she has many secret weapons, but I think her as a person is probably the most special thing.
Yeah, and people feel comfortable. They'll come back week after week, no matter how challenging it is. I didn't take a hip hop class. I shouldn't say that, but I was at 24/7. Over the weekend, Twitch was teaching on stage, and I was watching on the sideline because my friend's daughter was teaching. But he was so encouraging, and it was fun, and I started taking it. And I'm terrible at hip hop. However, I had so much fun.
For sure.
I mean, I posted it on my Instagram, and I'm like, I'm a mess. This technique is a mess, but I was like, there's so much heart here because he made me want to move.
For sure.
Yeah,
For
and
sure.
I think that's you probably do something very similar to your students.
She does.
Yeah, and it's a very special quality. It's an unusual one too. So
I feel that. Thank you.
yeah, because oftentimes I'm in class. If I take a hip hop class, I'm like, I'm just a mess. But I walked out of that and I was like, that was awesome. I kind of crashed the class on the sidelines, but it was great. It was fun. It was fun.
That's great to hear.
What are your goals now? Because I sit here and I think, and we talked about this with Trey. You guys did Times Square in midnight,
Yes.
in the rain. And I always think dancers, the bucket list of doing Super Bowl, doing Times Square. You're 18. You've already done World of Dance. Like, where do you see yourself going in the next couple years?
I definitely still see myself traveling. Like I said, I love educating people. I love being able to give back to others and be able to share my movement and just my experiences with others. But as much as I love educating, I also love creating. And so hopefully in the next span of these next couple of months throughout this year, I just really hope to be able to create for bigger stages, whether it be award shows or even big movies or commercials, or I just want to be able to create for bigger things, and I think that would be really cool for me to experience that, because I actually did some choreography for the AMAs last year with Sierra and Missy Elliott, and that alone, I was so blown away with that whole experience, and how the creative director behind that was Hi Hat,
amazing.
and I was just so amazed by how everybody was just creating and being able to really organize their work in a way where it showcased their best stuff.
And
so,
Missy loves dancers. She's so great with them.
so great with it. Yeah, she was so great. And I really just want to be able to put my work on bigger stages, hopefully, and obviously keep growing, keep sharing. But
And we have to
it's
say
one
this.
of my biggest
So you
goals,
think
yes.
you're not auditioning, correct? Your schedule does not allow it. I know.
I was hoping to, but my schedule for the next couple of months is so crazy that I don't think it was going to work out. But it's okay. I will definitely probably watch it on the side and cheer on some of my friends. That
Yes,
might
maybe
be
in the
on it.
future if it comes back.
Maybe in the
2017,
future, yes.
You can clear out your schedule a little bit. But I do have to ask, because I was like, the LA auditions are coming.
I know, yeah. I'm not, though. I wish I was, but it's okay. Yeah. Hopefully sometime next time.
All right, fingers crossed on that. Well, I want to thank you so much. I feel like it was long overdue to get you in here in the studio.
Thank you so much for having us today. I enjoyed this entire talk, and you're such a sweet person. Oh my gosh, I love
Thank you.
your energy throughout the whole show.
Yes, absolutely. And Val, thank you for coming back for the
course.
third time. I love it.
Thank you for having me.
I know, holding the record. I love it. We love it. And come back anytime. Seats are always open for you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bet,
much.
of course. If anyone wants to find you guys online, where can they find you?
My Instagram is at sienna.lalau, sienna.lalau. Facebook, same thing. YouTube, same
Across
thing.
the board.
Across the board.
Yes. How about you, Val?
You can find the lab at in the lab 247. And then you could find mine at Valerie_Ramirez.
Perfect. All right, you guys, we will be back next week. We have another person from World of Dance coming on. We're trying to kick it up, ramp it up for season 3. We want to thank Dance Network, of course, and Popcorn Talk for presenting the show, and we'll see you all next week.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network. The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.